Hello, welcome to another beautiful day here at Looking Through the Glass. We have Jeselle and we have Kristen Crabtree again. Woo.
Woo!
Kristen, I'm just going to hand it right off to you.
That sounds good. That sounds good, Sela. So, first of all, I want to let the audience know we had a couple minutes conversation before we hit record. And during that time, I learned that Sela is at her 2 year anniversary of being sober. And I am so happy for you and excited for you because that is a huge milestone in terms of our body chemistry and our brain chemistry. You have done incredible um, literally mind altering work over the last two
Yeah, no,
years.
you no joke. Why not freaking work?
And I want to celebrate that. And I know that firsthand, as you know, I
Yeah,
just hit my 2 years in February. So, I get it. And
yeah.
I'm impressed and pleased and happy to be able to celebrate today with you.
Thank you so much. I
You're
appreciate that.
welcome.
It definitely has taken a lot, and it didn't come with without its challenges, of course, like everybody's sobriety does.
Hmm.
But I am proud of myself. All in all, I am super
That's
proud of
amazing.
myself, and I'm proud of how I just can continue going. You know,
Excellent. Yep. So let's dive into some other stuff that I think is really relevant to where you're at today, because you also shared with me some other pretty significant shifts that have happened in your life that we may or may not unpack as this session, this podcast session goes on. But um, I think a topic, just from chatting with you about that, I think a topic that is really relevant to the moment that you're in is being able to hear your truth. And really, all of my work is about that. My Paramore Paradox project, which is the book and the journal and the app and the course and the blah, blah, blah. That's all about hearing your truth, answering the question of who am I outside of all the layers of adaptations that we put on ourselves. And in our last session, we touched briefly on how everybody has adaptations and masks and layers, but people who've gone through trauma, which I know you and Jeselle have been deep in trauma for a long time, as have I. The layers are even deeper and more complex and sometimes harder to get at. So, that part of my passion, my mission, my project is all about that. But my divorce coaching is also around or emanates from sort of that same process of hearing your truth. There's nobody who can tell you what to do that's right for you. And so, really,
Mhm.
the art and the science is helping people hear what's right for them, underneath everything. So, um, with your permission, I would like to dive into talking about the different ways of getting there, of getting to that centered place of truth.
Yeah, absolutely. No, let's dive into it. We're looking through the glasses about transparency, and we preach all the time. We're going through our own, and we're having our own human experiences, and we put it on here.
Yep.
So,
Excellent.
yeah, let's go ahead.
Okay. So I'm actually, as we speak, in the process of creating a course on, I don't know if you guys know the platform Udemy, but it's a really unique kind of course. And so I've been really wrestling with how to make this process on demand and accessible to people in a really experiential way. So I'm
Mhm.
actually going to use you as a guinea pig on some of my exercises that I've been creating. Woo! Um,
Great.
so and your audience, not just you,
Yeah,
because
no, that's great.
yeah. So the first thing that I want you and Jeselle and your audience to do is to. I'm going to shut up and be quiet for a moment, as are you. And what I want you to do is just hear the noise in your head, just hear the voices. Okay, so I'm going to shut up and let you guys do that for a few moments. Okay, so I'm going to share what was in my head, and then if either of you would like to share anything that came out from that, and then we can continue to unpack it. So for me, what I heard was, oh my gosh, I hope this is going to help people. Is this stupid? I hope that people are able to actually hear the noise so that this will make sense. So some things of self doubt, other things of, oh, I'm excited, I get to do this. So those kind of voices are what was going on for me. Did you guys want to share anything you heard?
Mine was also, what am I supposed to hear right now? And then okay, I know there's so much chatter going on because I am in a very overwhelmed state. But then it was, out of all of it, there was, I'm enough.
I
That's
love
what I
that.
heard.
That's good. That's good. Did you do it, Giselle? Do you have anything you want to share?
I want to get chewed out.
So what was going on in my head is I have so much shit I need to do. There's so much that needs to be done. And then, the other voice going, "Hey, you did a lot yesterday. You're doing your podcast today. Take a break. You're good. You're fine. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing." It's that
Per-
banter.
yep. Yep. And so there's a voice, and often many voices, but there's certainly at least one voice in our head that really narrates everything. And it's not loud, it's not dramatic, it's just constant, incessant. It's always there. It comments, it interprets, fills in the
Put two
gaps.
cents
And
in.
usually, what was that?
He said it puts its 2 cents in.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, like all the time,
Yeah, all
right?
the time.
And we usually don't even realize it's happening. And it can be things like, we're in the middle of a conversation and the voice says, why did they say it like that? What do they mean? Or I probably shouldn't have said that. Or if you're working on a project or doing something new, oh my God, this isn't going to work. And whatever that voice is, and whatever it says, it feels reasonable, and it doesn't feel like a random thought. It usually, well, not usually, I think it always feels like you thinking,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So now I want you to ask yourselves, whatever the thought was, did you choose it, or did it just appear? Did it kind of like pick up mid sentence?
Want me to go first?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mine came from way in the back. It was somebody yelled it from in the back. One of those little voices in the back yelled it, and it came, and I heard it in the middle of the. I've got so much going on in here. How am I supposed to get, because of the overwhelmness of how am I supposed to pick out what I'm supposed to hear? And I heard, I am enough from way in the back.
Mine's my everyday. It's just there. It's that one voice that I've been battling for a very long time.
So, the amazing thing about this process is the more you quiet and listen, even if it's for 30 seconds or 15 seconds, you'll start to hear different voices. So, Sela, because your voice was very supportive and positive, that was your truth. So that was that true part of you that was, trying to bust through and be heard through all the chaos. And so that is amazing and miraculous and special. And now that you have heard that, it'll be easier and easier to hear it again. When we hear
It has been
the
something I
ridicule,
have been working hard on. So it's not
good.
something I want our listeners to understand. It's not something that I just naturally came to do. This is something that I have been progressively working on for years.
Yep.
So, just so our
Yep.
listeners know, this is not a typical moment. I'm actually just going through something right now. So I'm in my moment of my practices. So I
Which
just
is
want to let our listeners
so
know.
fantastic. It's so
Yeah.
fantastic. And so, Giselle and Celia, you're both having very different experiences with the voices right now, which is perfect because we can kind of unpack them both differently. So, now what I want you to do is, again, go internal. I'll shut up. And I want you to experience that so the moment the voice shows up, there's something else that's happening there. Your body is responding. So depending on, again, whether it's the truth or whether it's the chatter of other voices that, we can talk about where they come from and so forth, there will be a different sensation in your body. So, Sela, go ahead. I think Jeselle is still with us, but
Yeah,
go ahead.
she does have her
Okay,
headphones on, but
got
I
it.
think she might be changing the baby at the moment, which
Perfect,
might
perfect,
make it a
perfect.
little difficult for her to actually do the exercise.
Okay, okay.
I'm
So if you
sorry.
can't, Giselle, that's okay. That's okay. So,
Real life.
yeah, in real life. And I'm doing this as we go through too, because, it's always a process of uncovering and hearing and learning and all of that. So, depending
Hmm.
on how our day is gone and how grounded we are, things will be different. So, I'm going to shut up again. Let's close our eyes. Let's hear that voice or any new voices. And experience in our body the sort of physical sensations that come up. Okay. So, did you guys get anything from that?
Yeah. So mine went from the it went from I just held on to the I am enough, and I just kind of repeated it in my head and just kind of sat there with it. And there was just you are love is what I heard. That
Beautiful. How did that feel in the
there was
body?
just a
Where?
sense of kind of, but it also a tingly feeling in here, very tingly feeling in here, in the chest.
Excellent. Excellent. So
Did I do
now
that
you
correctly?
have, yeah, before I move on to Giselle, so now, Sela, you have a reference point for that voice and that truth and what that feels like when you're connected to it. So you now
Mhm.
know that that tingly feeling is associated with being connected to that voice that is the real you.
Yeah,
So
it's like kind of a
Giselle,
butterfly feeling in the chest more, so how you get them in the stomach, it was more in the chest.
like in your heart
Yeah,
center.
yeah, like in my heart chakra area.
Perfect. Perfect. And how about you, Giselle?
It was it said you got this, and I've and with my body because of the overwhelming of things I've been going through, my nervous system is going through these new things, and I shiver. I like my mom does. My whole body feels cold, but I'm not cold. And so I start to feel it through my body, my arms, and then it goes into my chest and down my body into my legs. And it's just like a wave of, it almost feels like a wave of electricity.
Hmm.
And is that when the confusion thought is going on, or is that when the thought that feels like your truth is going on?
That's the confusion.
Okay. So that is like a sort of electric shiver that's moving through your body. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. That's good to know. So again, now you have sort of a somatic experience of it. And what this really illustrates is that when we have thoughts, we're not like separate from it, we're really inside of it. And what typically happens is we have a thought, we have this sensation, and then from there we're trying to figure it all out, we're trying to analyze things and follow things, and because it kind of feels like information that we need. um, and what's interesting about um, the thoughts that come up, we usually grab on to the one that feels familiar, right?
Yeah.
Um, so, there's a bunch of chatter, but there's one in particular that usually feels familiar. And that familiarity makes us think it's right. You know,
Mm-hmm.
familiar does not mean right. In fact, usually, at least in the beginning of our work, not necessarily, Sela, you might be pretty far along at this point, but in the beginning of our work, familiar is usually not right. It is
Yeah.
what we're comfortable with, and it's what our body is used to. But just like if you're doing the work, then you're probably not wanting to live in a, state of chaos. But your body is used to that state of chaos and your mind is used to that state of chaos. And so it's going to choose that because that's the known, right? That's what's
Mm-hmm.
safe. And there's actually, like neurology associated with all of this. So your brain doesn't just produce thoughts randomly, right? It's processing information constantly. Everything you've ever lived, learned, repeated, paid attention to is being organized and filtered in the background. And I talk a lot about filters in my work, and we can even do a little exercise around that that's fun. Um, and so, what comes out of this process of layers of analysis and filtering are thoughts. And the thoughts are not truth, they're not final answers, they're just outputs that our brain is generating. And our brain is designed for efficiency and it's designed for expectation. So it wants to help us compute things quickly and it wants to output what we expect to receive. That's just the way it works. That's the way the filter is. And so what happens is we have these competing thoughts, and depending on how, long or rich and deep we are into the work, the competing thoughts will be there. And we may grab on to the one that's familiar. It may not be the one that's true, but it's the one that's familiar. And then we also grab onto that because it's what we expect to see. Now, the amazing thing about realizing that is that once you see the filter that you've been seeing through, you then realize that you can actually change your filter.
Mm-hmm.
And our brains, I don't think we got into this in the last session because it's there's a lot to unpack in
There's
all of
never
the
enough
way.
time, right?
There's never enough time. But our brains, so there's two things I want to touch on. I don't want to forget, so I'm going to say them both and then hopefully we'll touch on them. And if we don't, you can remind me. So memory is one thing I want to touch on that's related to this. And the other thing is what we filter out. So I think I'm going to start there. So we actually filter out 99.99999% of the information that is provided to us in this world. And that is science. That's not metaphysics. So we actually only
So
see
we're seeing just a bare speck of what we
minuscule speck.
that,
Yeah. So
what we should be actually seeing
able to experience.
or
Yeah.
experience.
And I
Yeah,
use the word seeing, but it's really experience because it's seeing,
experience. Yeah.
hearing, feeling. Yeah. It's all
Hmm.
of that.
All the
And
senses.
all the senses and even senses we don't know we have,
Yeah, you're
right? So
right.
it's like, yeah. So it's
Yeah,
like
I hear you.
everything. And when you really get into the science, they've boiled it down to 0.00002% of what is actually perceivable is being filtered out. But the sort of slightly easier number to fathom is the 0.01%. So we are experiencing very little of what it actually exists. And part of that, and this is not one of those two things I was going to say I wanted to talk about, but it's relevant. Part of that is that we relate to the world as matter. We are matter, and everything we relate to is matter. However, 99.9, so there's those big numbers again, 99.9% of us, the desk, the computer, whatever you think is like real and solid,
Solid.
99.9% of that is energy.
Yeah.
It's not
It's
atoms, it's not matter. And they discovered this through multiple experiments, but the first one was the electron double slit experiment. They've done it with photons, and basically the short version of what they discovered from these. And these experiments miraculously started back in like the late 1800s. But this is sort of the birth of quantum physics, because what they were able to determine was that when they were looking to measure to see if an electron was matter, it would show up as matter. And if they were looking to see if it was a wave, it would act as a wave. And what they have come to realize is that there's something that they call the observer effect. And the observer
mhm,
effect means that once you go, so electrons, so the foundation of matter, um, it presents as a field of potential, field of possibility. It's a splattering of stuff. And then when we go to look at it, to analyze it, to see it, to observe it, it condenses into one spot. And that's the spot that we perceive as matter. But because everything is really an energetic field of possibility, of potential, we can actually, once we realize this, we don't have to observe what we expect and what is efficient, which is what our filter does, right?
mhm.
Because now we see the filter, now we know, oh, okay, so if I want to observe a different potential, I can do that. I just have to shift my filter. Okay, so the other thing that I said I wanted to talk about was memory, because this all kind of ties in together. And this also is science, and there's some really interesting ways of looking at it and understanding it. But the range varies according to research, but researchers have come to the realization that 40 to 60% ish of what we remember didn't even really happen. So
Wow.
that doesn't mean if we remember being raped that we weren't raped. That doesn't necessarily mean that, but it does mean that the details surrounding that experience have been altered. It's not,
Mhm,
memory is not a record of the
mhm.
past. It is a reorganizing, so to speak, of the past. And that's why sometimes memory changes, right? And it's
Yeah.
also why Jeselle and Sela can go to a football game and they can witness a fight between two people in the crowd, and you can remember very different things about it. Like you may
Mhm.
remember one person starting it, and Sela may remember one person starting it, Jeselle may remember the other person starting it, the words that are exchanged, the clothes they were wearing, the time within the game, the context, like all of those things can be remembered extremely differently. So you can
Yes.
actually test this with a friend
It
or,
has been tested on many, many occasions. I've seen tests or know of tests
yeah.
that have been done, and it's been proven time after time after time that literally two people perceive their memories, what they remember, what they perceive are completely different. That's why
And
there's
that's because of the filter.
hmm
That's because we all have these filters that are layered with past experiences, emotions, whatever. And so, if one of us is really not comfortable with conflict, that's going to bring about a different context to that fight between the people. If the other one is like, yeah, I love conflict, then, they're going to experience a different energy and a different, whatever. And something that I realized once I was learning about this is that, um, like serial killers, right? Or
hmm
pathological liars. The reason they're so convincing is because they believe their story,
they believe their
right?
Hmm.
stories. Yes,
Yeah,
yes. I had an
they have
aunt that was a pathological liar. Yes.
They have constructed in their brain a memory that is so clear that they are able to tell that story with complete conviction, because this is the other part that ties in. So our minds don't know the difference between something real and imagined. And again, that's science. So that's why they've done studies on like athletes practicing to shoot baskets versus imagining practicing to shoot baskets. And they have just about the same amount of improvement. And even people who've like never played the piano, they'll give one person a lesson and that person will physically practice it. They'll tell the other person the lesson, but have them imagine it. And then, you know, they always have, what are they called? The groups of people that do nothing, right? So the person, and this is fascinating, the person that never touches the piano but imagines it, when they sit down to the piano, a lot of times they can play just as well as the person who's been imagining it. And the other cool thing when you think about that is when you're physically practicing something, you make mistakes. When you imagine it, you don't make mistakes.
You don't make mistakes.
Yeah. And so it's incredibly powerful. So the fact that you can actually construct memories. If you sit there and another great example is like, when I was a little girl, I've been told I was a very messy eater. And so my mom used to put me in my high chair in the shower and have me eat in the shower so she could just hose me off. Well, I actually have a memory of that, but it's because I've been told the story so many times that I have this memory planted in my head of being in the shower. Now, I probably don't really have that memory. I mean, I was like 1 year old or whatever, right? So, but our brains can actually, you know, construct this visual experience of things that we haven't ever really experienced. So the cool thing about the filter is once you can see it, once you realize, and again, see, you know, that's a visual, so experience, once you know it's there, yeah, then you can start to tinker with it. You know, awareness is really the key to everything.
Yeah.
Awareness
really
is the first step to everything.
Everything, yeah.
To get to the awareness is like the need to quiet the mind. And I think we touched on that a little last time about, you know, different tools and techniques, and we can get into that more if you want. But there's another exercise I'd love to walk you guys through. I have these 4 things that I call mind expanding experiences that I think I mentioned last time as well. And they're free on my website. You can download them for free. But I don't call them meditations, even though they kind of are. But they're really there to help you experience that filter that we live within. And the whole point of that is because once you do that, you know, people talk about manifesting and they have dream boards and they have, you know, affirmations and all of that. But those things don't really quite work because of the damn filter. You know, so even if you tell
your brain filters it out because of the way your past experiences and
all
what
that
your
chatter.
expectations.
Yep.
And one thing I've always been, okay, not always, but through my awakening, one thing that I definitely have realized is don't expect things to come in a certain package.
Right.
Wait, because if you expect it to come in the package that you envisioned it in, you're gonna miss it.
Yep.
You're gonna miss it. Be open. You have to be open to accepting it however the universe or however it's meant to come to you, you know?
You know, this is an unrelated but related story, but it's fascinating and it's really current to me, and it really did happen, which is kind of mind-blowing to me. And I'll tell you how I interpret it as well. But okay, so I was mentioning, I think, you know, pre-recording that I am recovering from carpal tunnel surgery. So I just had surgery on Wednesday. And today is what day is today? Monday. Okay, Monday. So today is Monday. So just to give people context. So this is 5 days ago, right? So for carpal tunnel surgery, you are at least I was awake for it. You know, they just do a local anesthesia. So I'm in the surgical room and they're prepping my arm. And I'm wide awake and I'm looking at the TV screen because they're going to be allowing me to watch it, which was really cool, by the way. It's
That is
super
way
fast.
cool.
Yeah, really cool. And I hear one of the nurses behind me. I can't see her. And she says, um, so are we done with winter? Because, like, where I'm from, we wouldn't be done with winter yet. We'd still be getting some more snow. And I'm just curious. And they answered her. And then I said, oh, so you're new to the area? And she said, yes, I'm a traveler. And I said, do you live in Adams? And she said, yes. And I'm going to make up the next part because I don't want the exact street
Yeah,
address to be
yeah,
known. So, do you live in Adams? Yes. Do you live on Montgomery Road? Big pause. Yes. Do you live at 27 or 26? 26. That's my old apartment. So I knew immediately that she lived in my old apartment. Like, how? People
how
have
did you
asked.
know?
Yeah, and okay, so the other weird thing about that, so here's the next part of the weird story. I call this seeing the glistening on the web, and I just figured this out like 2 days ago that that's what it was. But okay, so um, after the surgery, she came over to where I was, getting debriefed and getting up, and she said, okay, so obviously I need to learn something from you or from this moment. So, like, we got to talk. What's up? And I said, well, there could be two things. My friend over here, my ride that, is helping me out today, he lives across the street from you. So maybe you're supposed to meet him. That could be. I said, but what are you interested in? Like, what do you do? What are your hobbies? And she was just dead silent looking at me. And I said, do you do metaphysical stuff at all? And she said, I do Reiki. And I said, okay, well, there's a store in Williamstown that has, and I'll give them a shout out. It's called Wild Soul River. Yay! So I said, there's this store in Williamstown that has, crystals and herbs and tarot cards and books and blah, blah, blah. And they have created quite a community around them. And they do moon circles at the full moon around a fire pit. And it happens to be tonight. So if that is something that interests you, you might want to go. Sure as shit, before I could even get home and call the owner of the store, Bjorn, shout out to you, she had already registered for the fire circle, the moon circle, and came, attended, got to meet all these people, got to meet my community, which is the whole reason I stayed in this area. I would probably have not stayed in Massachusetts if it hadn't been for Wild Soul River. Shout out again.
Oh,
So, anyways,
big shout
so
out to them.
yeah, big shout out to them. So, what's really interesting about that is, everybody at the Moon Circle heard this story, right? And everybody was asking me, like, how did you know? And she asked me over and over, how did you know? And I was like, I don't know. I just knew. I just knew. And
Just
that's
hear it.
never happened to me in that way before. But there's this thing. So I talk about it in my book. These days, it's not a radical idea. The book was initially written in 1999, and I think I mentioned that in our last thing.
Yeah.
It's been very much rewritten, but the structure is the same. And part of the structure of the original book was these web stories. And the web stories are little examples of how when you make, like one little change in your life, it doesn't just ripple out to your life, but it ripples out to the world. So the last chapter of my book is called The Final Web, the only ripple I can truly share, or something like that. So The Final Web is a story where I talk about a web in my life that I can actually trace back at least a little ways. So And there's a really long version to this because the web actually goes back 4 years. So I'm gonna, and of course, it goes way beyond that. I just can't trace it any further back than 4 years. But I'll give you the very short version if I can. So 4 years ago, a little over 4 years ago, so Christmas time, 4 years and 4 months ago, I spent Christmas at that time with the woman who's now my ex, our stepson, who is now deceased. This shows how much my life has changed, and baby's mama, my stepson's mother. The four of us would always spend Christmas together. And I was having a particularly bad Christmas and spinning out about something really stupid. And baby's mama, said to me, I know you've suffered from a lot of trauma in your life. Have you considered EMDR, trauma therapy? And I'd heard of it. I researched it. I wound up January 1st, so just about a week later, was signed up to start trauma therapy. We actually did something called progressive counting, but it's similar. And I did 5 days, 8 hours a day of intensive trauma therapy. It was amazing. If I said trauma training in any of that, I meant trauma therapy. So anyways, trauma therapy. Amazing. So that was January of 2022. As I left his office, he said to me, you're going to see some immediate changes, but it really will take about 2 years for all of the changes to unfold. But, just to let you know, that's kind of the process to expect. Okay, so now go back 4 years again. And so at that same time, I had recently moved into this new house. They have like an online community bulletin board email thing. And somebody on one of the days posted, hey, I'm new to the area and I need a hairdresser recommendation. And I chimed in and said, you know what, I do too, but I need somebody specific for my hair type because otherwise it never looks right. And some people gave me recommendations. And I bookmarked it and filed it away. And I rarely get my hair cut. And so a year and a half later, so now this is 2.5 years ago, a year and a half after this all started, I reached back out and said, hey, I'm ready. Have you actually gone to any of these? Somebody said, went to Renee, go check her out. So I book an appointment. Okay. So now we're back in 2023, 2024. All right. So I started seeing, let's go back again 4 years. So 4 years ago also, during that same Christmas, baby's mama used to love to listen to Audible. She'd walk around the house all day with a earpiece in listening to Audible. And she would say things like, oh my God, I'm reading this incredible book on blah, blah, blah. And my ex would put her down and say, you're not reading, you're listening. That's different. Of course, my ex never read either, but she would totally ridicule her. Back in the 20 teens, I used to listen to Audible, but I had stopped because of that kind of ridicule.
Because of that kind of ridicule, yeah.
Yes. So
another way just for people to know that that's a way we shrink ourselves.
Yes, exactly. So a year after that, so we'll say 3 years ago, I started listening to Audible again, and this is relevant to the web. So hairdresser and I had connected by this point. I'd gone to see her a few times, probably 3 or 4. February of 2024, so 2 years ago, I'm sitting in her chair and I'm, talking about my marriage. She knows, hairdressers should be called therapists because they hear everything. So she already knows my whole life story, and I'm telling her about where my marriage is at, which at that point it was in a really messed up place. And she pauses and she says, somebody just recommended a book to me that I devoured. She also listens. I devoured in a day. It's called Untamed by Glennon Doyle. And I think you'd like it. Well, because I had started listening to Audible again, so again, trace the web back there. And because I had this hairdresser, so trace the web back there. And so those webs actually, like the hairdresser web, actually started with the person who posted, the thing about hairdressers. And so whatever came before that. So just keep tracing back to infinity. So because of that, when I got in the car after my hair appointment, I downloaded Untamed and listened to it on my way home, which was a half-hour drive. The prologue to Untamed is about a cheetah. And for those of you who can't see, I've got 2 cheetah tattoos on my arm as a result of that story. So I won't say anything else except that it really resonated with me. And it became a big part of why I wound up asking for a divorce about a month later. So,
what's the name of the book again?
It's Untamed by Glennon Doyle, but it gets better. Okay. The web's not done. But it's a great book. Yes. And it's a chick book, but it's a great book. Really, really good book. So, anyways, so now, so that was 2024, asked for, March of 2024, I asked for the divorce. December of 2024, my healing had gotten pretty far. I had been to a Dr. Joe retreat. I'd come back from the retreat. I had started to hear that little voice that Sela just made reference to. And I was
By the way,
hanging out
that voice only came out about a week ago.
Yeah,
that voice appeared only about a week ago. So I just want people to understand it takes time and it takes work, but that voice does show up. That person inside of you that's willing to stand up for you against the narcissist that's inside of you does show up.
And let's talk for just 1 second about how to make that voice stronger and trust you. And it's by hearing moments of it and trusting it enough to make decisions or take action based on it. And so every little moment that you choose to hear that whisper in the back enables the whisper to get more confident and stronger for you to hear. Okay. So it's not any big grand thing. It's not like all of a sudden you'll hear it clear. It's like hearing it enough and listening, acting in alignment with it enough that it's like, oh, okay, you're ready to hear me. And then it will start to be more easy to hear. Okay. And the point of this web is and I'll finish telling it, hopefully not take forever. But the point of this web is to show you how the unfolding of decisions that you make really expand out in crazy ways. And can lead to moments like the one I had in the surgery, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm sitting on my sofa. True self, what am I supposed to do next? True self says, go find the book you wrote in 1999. I didn't remember writing this book. I had no context I remembered the web stories. That's the only part I remembered about writing this book. I found it in the deep, dark recesses of my backup drive. Opened it to the first chapter. It was 8 exercises. I was blown away. That started this whole journey to the book that I just published called Be the You That's More You Than You've Ever Been. The web does not stop there. So during the time of writing the book, I started thinking, I really need to know if this process works for other people. It worked for me, but does it work for anybody else? So I'm going to invite some people to read the book and give me, a section at a time and give me feedback so that I can make it better. So I got about 12 different people to do that, people that I had never met. And one of them, let's see. Okay. So anyways, 12 different people have read the book, right? My therapist, I had gone back to exactly 2 years after my trauma therapy. I started seeing him again to fix my marriage. Okay. And through that, so that was January of 2024, and these dates keep coming up, right? So January of 2024, 2 years after my trauma therapy, 2 months before I asked for a divorce, I start seeing my therapist again. And he actually helped name the book. What's that?
There's a lot of twos.
Yeah, a lot of twos, right? He actually helped name the book. He's very spiritual, and so he really helped me unpack the whole process and all of that. Okay, So now it's 2025, probably around August-ish, and I'm in a therapy session with him. And he says, something really funny happened yesterday. And I said, what? And he said, my daughter and I were having dinner, and she quoted a book. And I said, what book did you just quote? And she said, or what author did you just quote? And she said, Kristen. And he said, Kristen who? And she said, you're Kristen. And so, okay, his trauma therapy 4 years ago got me to the point that I could hear my truth and write my book, which got me to the point where she received my book as one of the test readers, who then quoted me at the frickin' dinner table with the man who 4 years ago helped me through trauma therapy. So that is what I call the glistening on the web. So when you're in a forest and you walk into a web, you see it. But when you're in a forest in the morning, when the dew is on it and it's sparkling, right, you can really see the web from a totally different perspective. And
Yes.
when crap like that happens, you go, ah, that's the glistening on the web. And so
Mm-hmm.
the filter ties in with that too, because just like you were saying, if you think things are going to look the way you expect them, a certain way, they're probably not. You just have to be open to that web. You have to be open to receiving the ripples that are happening out there in the world. And the more you
Absolutely.
align yourself with that true voice, the more that happens. Because about a week ago, my mother filled me with, she planted some really stupid weeds in my brain. And even though I'm pretty skilled at kicking them out, it had still started to germinate a little, and I had some self doubts. And,
Those are really hard to get out when
oh,
sometimes when they get in.
100%. And I shut her down, but the seeds were still
They're
planted.
already too late.
Yes. So I had to like pull them up. But in order to pull them up, I had to have the surgery moment that let me know, no, you are on the path. You are so aligned. Look at how in sync you are, that you
Hmm.
knew she lived in your old place and that she needed to hear something from you, right?
Yeah,
So
that's
that
intense.
that told me, oh, don't change anything you're doing. Don't listen to that stupid seed. Just yank it right out because it's useless. So
Hmm.
there's my long story. So do you want to do, I know we're coming up on an hour. Do you want to do a quick mind expanding experience?
Yes, let's leave on the mind expanding. That's what I was going to ask you. Can we end on the mind expanding experience?
Yay, let's do it. Okay.
Okay.
So there's four of them. One is to help you see the visual filter. One is to help you experience the auditory filter. One is to help you experience the somatic, kinesthetic, physical filter. And then the fourth one ties them all together. Even though I'm a visual person, I think the easiest one for everybody to really experience is the auditory one. And I don't know why that is, but it seems to be the one that's easiest, regardless of what sense for you is dominant. So I'm not going to be able to do this with you because I got my headphones on, but I'm going to walk you guys through it. So
Okay.
close your eyes. Okay. Now, take in a couple deep breaths, and this isn't about breathing, but the breathing will ground you. So just taking a couple nice deep breaths. And one more. All right. Now, I want you to pick a sound, any sound. It can be a one time sound like a clank of a pan, or it can be a background sound like the hum of a refrigerator, any kind of sound. Just pick that and really experience it fully. And now I want you to pick a second sound. Just leave that one behind and find a different sound. Again, it can be continuous or one time and really experience it. Now pick a third one. And now focus on finding a fourth one that is a continuous sound. Which of those sounds did you hear before? And you don't have to answer this. Which of those sounds did you hear before I told you to find a sound? And again, don't answer this, just recognize it. Were the sounds there before you heard them? And when I asked you to find a sound, what did your brain do? It opened up and it expanded and it searched, right? It said, okay, I've got to find another sound. So let me go do that. Okay. So now what I want you to do is go back inward and find a sound. It can be, again, a one time or whatever. And if that is a sound that is still there, either way, pick another sound. But if you can hold on to multiple sounds at the same time, please do. So, and you can continue. Now pick a third one and do your best to hold on to as many as you can, and then a fourth one, and then a fifth one. And you may have to expand out, like traffic in the distance, or you may have to contract in, like your gurgling of your stomach, or a high-pitched, like frequency sound in your ears or your head. And continue to expand or contract and get more sounds. Now explore the question of, are any of those sounds particularly pleasing that you just tune out? Like the rustling of leaves or your heartbeat or, your dog licking itself or whatever, right? Okay. And now reflect on how much did you just take in that you don't normally, that you usually filter out? And what else do you filter out in your life? And whenever you're done, you can take another deep breath or two and then open your eyes.
I don't know if you heard one of mine, but one of mine was my dog licking itself.
Oh, I didn't. Oh, how funny. No, I couldn't hear that, but that's hysterical.
To tell you that. That's why I was trying not to laugh because one of
See,
mine was
listening
my
on the
dog
web, right? I
with
was
the
able
web.
to,
Exactly.
yep.
It just that is proof right there. But yeah, one of them was my dog licking himself, and he didn't do that because at first it was him snoring, and then it
Uh-huh.
switched to him licking himself.
Oh my God, that's hysterical. There you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah,
And see, like
there's a
you went deep fast with one breath. I saw you like in. So you are solid at tapping into that part. That's awesome. That was beautiful.
thank you. It's been a lot of work, it takes it takes a lot of work, and I love this exercise because it made me feel way more calm on the inside.
Good.
Um, I did have to like when you think I needed the guidance on the you can shrink it in because I was
Mhm.
like losing myself and it was getting too much to go out any further. But when I brought it back in, it was like the constant ringing that's in my ears. It was, when I tuned it back into there, and then it went to my heartbeat, and then my breath, And then that's when it really just kind of like it just like just a calming from head to toe. And it
Beautiful.
really, and I can feel like the aftermath where the one that you said that you filter out all the time, birds, because the bird chirping, there was a bird chirping outside my window that was continuous on and off with every time you said something.
It was
Every
like,
time you said to take
hey,
in a new noise,
hey,
here it was
hey.
right outside my office window. I'm like, I'm supposed to be listening to something you knew, not you.
It's like, well, each chirp is new.
Yeah, right. Yes, probably
I had that
exactly.
same
I'm
problem.
telling
I
you
had
new
that same
things. I'm
problem.
telling you new things. Yeah.
But yeah,
Giselle,
no,
did,
it's a great experience, especially to kind of and it's funny, I just look up and I have on my calendar a bird sitting, a giant bird just looking at me like cockeyed. So just for everybody to know, the web is there.
oh, and I have to say one. So I now have bird feeders outside my window, which I haven't had because I had a dying dog and a dying cat and
Yeah.
a dying marriage and all of that. But now all of a sudden I have this energy I have to give somewhere. So I've got a million bird feeders. And when I took my dog to the place that she got cremated, there was a cardinal that flew right by. And cardinals have never been significant to me, but I knew that was her. And so just now, just 30 seconds ago, a cardinal, aka Avery, my dog, just
Hmm.
parked itself outside my window. And I don't actually get that many cardinals at my bird feeder, but it just stared in my window and said, "Yep, I'm here." So there you go, birdies.
Again, part of the web because it was a bird.
Yep,
You know, there's that web. I love that you're explaining the web because it is very important. It is very important. When people say hindsight's 2020, well, what you're looking at is that web.
yep.
Now, Kristen, this has been an amazing episode again with you. Thank you so much. For anybody that is looking to contact us, if you want to share your story, stay anonymous. You do not have to have a name for the story to impact others. It is important, and your story can help others in their recovery and in their recovery, whatever. You can contact us at 12 looking through THRU 34 the glass at gmail.com, our Facebook or our TikTok. And now we are on what's that one called, Giselle?
Instagram.
Instagram. That's right.
And let
We
me
are
throw
now
out
on
how you guys
Instagram.
can
I'm
let
like,
me
what
throw
is
out how
that
you
one
guys
called?
can you guys can
So
hear find me at www.you, the number 2, the word point, POINT, the number 0.com.
thank you very much for filling that in part in for me. uh, so thank you all for looking into the glass.